Well, hello, my CNC brothers and sisters. Hey, it's another Wednesday and time for another CNC Hangout. But tonight we've got a very special guest on board that we all get to learn from when it comes to CNC business. So, this is a business night talk where we are going to address your business questions. We have Andy Bird from Andy Bird's Builds. You've seen him on YouTube. He's been on YouTube for quite a while now and has built up quite a following, and there's lots of education out there. Tonight, he is going to share his story about going from a 9 to 5 type of guy like I used to be to becoming his own boss and the challenges that go with it in the CNC world. And so we are going to dive deep into that. So here's the house rules. Number one, first, of course, please keep everything clean. We don't tolerate not nice behavior. So we will have Julianne in the background and Liberty, who will be talking to you and monitoring that kind of stuff, making sure that we are all here for what we do, which is to help each other. And I will bring them out in a minute. The other house rule is, of course, questions. Your questions. If you have a question, please put like a couple of question marks before it, because Julianne and Liberty will watch for them and they'll put it in our queue so that we can answer your CNC business questions and we can talk about other CNC stuff as well. And the final rule, of course, for those who are regular here that know it, if I ask these guys to do something, Julianne and Liberty, you got to take a drink. So have your drinks ready, your favorite one. I won't tell you whether there's water in here or bourbon or something else, but we'll just kind of keep it at that. All right. So, what else do I have here? Well, we're just going to say hello to a few people first. And good, we got a question coming in already. So keep them coming in. So we got Jen and Tim. I'm going to have to run through a few names, but I can't cover them all because we already got several hundred people on board. Dan O'Brien's. And where we got Robert, Rick, and William, Kevin, John Whitney from Michigan, and Raymond. Raymond says, hello, Julianne. Liberty is not on board just yet, but she will be here. Judson's Discretionary Metalworks. I love interesting names for businesses. We got Rich, Mike, and Norman, and the rest of y'all creators. Hello. Happy Wednesday evening with our regular Wednesday CNC Hangout. I'm going to bring Julianne up. This is the person who keeps IDC Woodcraft running in the background, and she will be in the background here. But we do have an announcement we want to share before we bring Andy on board. At least Julianne does, about next week. So
I was wondering what announcement you wanted me to just go ahead with. So as Garrett will be out of town on business next week, we will still be having our live. However, we have taken over. It will be Liberty, Kate, Ellen, and myself running the show. So, but all you guys are still welcome, of course.
It's going to be Ladies Night CNC next Wednesday. So ladies, make sure you come on board. Grab your CNC lady friends, and guys, come on board.
Bring the wine.
No buying free drinks for the ladies that night. But Kate will be back. Kate will be there. Yeah. And Ellen, who is Madra, who is always here, she will be here as well, who is a very interesting CNC business herself. So she'll share that with you next week. IDC Woodcraft. Thanks, Julianne. So just to let you know, we've got some new products that are coming out very shortly. So CNC insiders, those who are on the IDC Woodcraft email list, make sure that you pay attention, because you know that when I release new product, you get a discount for a little bit of time, a pretty decent discount. And one other thing I want to share, if you have a Makita on your CNC, and you have to use the wrenches to loosen the collet up and take the bit out, take the collet out, put another bit in, all that stuff. And then what kind of time that takes. Well, we've been carrying a product called the Muscle Chuck, this guy here, and it's for the Makita trim router. And what it is a quick change tool. Julianne will put a link in the comments shortly, but basically it's this. It attaches right to your Makita. You don't have a collet anymore, and you basically just get your bit inserted there and put your wrench in there. And if I can get my wrench to get into that, that's probably the longest thing. There we go. And just tighten it up, and you're ready to go. And then when you want to change your bit, you loosen that up, pull the bit out, put the next bit in, and you're ready to rock and roll. So the reason I'm sharing this is because we are closing out on this. We will not be carrying them anymore. So we have a couple hundred in stock. We are closing them out at 30% off. So if you got a Makita and you want it, jump on it now, because it's $51, something like that, as opposed to the normal retail that you can get it from other sources like $70, $71 or something like that. So just wanted to share that with you. Jump on board and get that. And with that, we are going to bring Andy Bird on board, where we're going to start talking about CNC business. So hello, Andy.
Hello.
And thank you for taking some time out in this Wednesday to join us. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Some of your experience. Now, you just shared that you just recently had a second child. Is that right?
Yeah, my second son, he is 3 months old. So I've got a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. So on top of owning my own company, I'm busy.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Being a solopreneur can, there's so many things to juggle.
Yeah.
And, but Andy, before we kind of get started on this, starting to talk about CNC business.
Yeah.
Let's kind of, for the people that, everybody's watched your channel, but for those who haven't really watched a lot of it to get to know you, let's get your backstory. Where'd you come from? How'd you get into CNC? How'd you start a business that was successful and then gotten to where you gotten now?
Yeah, for sure. So most people know, they meet me through YouTube. So they think that's where I started, was YouTube, but I actually didn't start there. Andy Bird Builds didn't start on YouTube. And so, but we can go back. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My dad owns his own company, and that was my first job. And so entrepreneurship in general runs deep in my blood. Even my wife, her family, she grew up, her dad owned his own company. So I never thought that was unique until I started talking to people about business, and they're like, yeah, these things are these concepts are completely foreign to me. And I never realized that oh, well, it was just yeah, my dad made me read these books growing up. So, but anyways, that's really kind of, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Went to college. I went to Michigan State University. Are there any Spartans out there? And I studied turf management. So this is unique. Long story, but I'm just giving you the hero version here.
Yeah. Wait, turf management? You mean like AstroTurf?
So we call turf grass. So it's grass management.
Okay.
Sounds weird, right?
Gotcha.
But I worked in professional sports. So I worked for the Detroit Tigers. I worked for Michigan State Athletics. I worked even down into the rec leagues. And then so I'm from Kentucky now. I live in Kentucky. I'm from Michigan, live in Kentucky. But I've been here 11 years now. And so I guess I'm from here. Not too far from Garrett, actually.
No, didn't even realize that until Workbench Con, when you said you were. Yeah. He's an hour and 15 minutes away from me.
Yeah, it's we're gonna get you down here to the shop one day. So, but yeah, so I moved down here for that job, and like a lot of people, that job kind of went south a little bit in 2017. Not any of my own doing. It was a government job and contracts and stuff like that. So, but I was the manager of the Elizabethtown Sports Park, which is a 160-acre athletic facility. It had 30 athletic fields, buildings. I moved here to take that job.
Wow.
And yeah, so as my job was going poorly, I watched a lot of YouTube, and I was like, "What are these CNC things?" And this was like 2017. So believe it or not, that was what I don't know, 7 years ago now.
Yeah, that's going back.
And I was like, so I had backing up a little bit. I had kind of like just piddled a little bit with. I had a table saw and I had basic tools and I made some cutting boards. And then I found the CNC and I was like, I'm gonna get one of those. This is where that I can make money with that. Like I know how to. I've always had side hustles along the way. So I bought my first CNC, the Shapeoko 3 XXL, and learned how to use it. I know, like I just told you, I grew grass for a living, and this used to be a good joke. Like I went to college to study grass, but now it seems to be legal everywhere, so it's not really a joke anymore. But anyways, and so none of the skills really transferred, right?
Yeah.
So I tell a story because I had business sense, I guess, before I had CNC sense. And so 2020, so I started making and selling things on the CNC in 2018. I had a few wholesale contracts, and I was doing this on the side, and then COVID hit, and some things changed. More things changed with my job, and so I decided to jump all in 2020. And 2020 is when I started a YouTube channel and started sharing what I was doing. And I started kind of in DIY stuff while I was doing CNC stuff. So it's kind of a mixture. If you go back at the beginning of my channel, it's some home renovation stuff. But then I shared a video about how I was making money with my CNC machine, like just completely organic, didn't have a plan. And it got traction. And I was like, okay, well, I'll do more of that. Mm-hmm. And they say the rest is history. Here I am 4 years later, 300 videos later, and YouTube, the YouTube side of my business, teaching business to CNC entrepreneurs, a lot like you do, Garrett, is kind of where I found my voice and found my space. And that's what I do today. I absolutely love it. Like people say that, not the whole thing of if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, but I really found where my passion and where my voice has resonated.
Yeah. And
I've gotten traction and where those meet. And so I'm extremely blessed to be able to do what I do, and people are interested in what I have to say. So it's an odd concept, but so yeah. So that's how I got where I'm at. And we still sell products, physical products. Our main product is laser cut. We've got this Thunder laser right here. And that's kind of my wife and I. It's almost like our side hustle now.
Okay.
And so we're still making and selling, and yeah.
So okay. So for those who have joined up after we initially started here, we got Andy Bird from Andy Bird's Builds, the YouTube channel, and Andy just gave his Cliff Notes version of where he came from and what he's doing now, and his passion into CNC business and becoming a teacher of business. Once you reach the same thing, I'm like, once we reach a certain point, we have to be able to give back. And so anyway, feel free to ask any questions as we go along. We're going to Andy and I are going to start to talk about business and what it takes to get into business. And we already got some questions there. So with your questions, make sure you put a question mark or two before your question. And that way, Liberty and Julianne in the background will know to mark that. And by the way, Liberty is now on board. And for those of you who, I'm going to bring them back up real quick, Julianne and Liberty, who are in the background of the stream here. So they are making sure that all the comments get managed. Julianne is the administrator for IDC Woodcraft, and Liberty is the shipping manager, and you will be seeing her more and more on YouTube on the IDC Woodcraft channel. Been teaching her how to make stuff, and she does one-on-one, by the way, teaching Vectric. So if you're stuck, you can go to the idcwoodcraft.com website and find in the learning center, and you can schedule a one-on-one with Liberty, and she'll help you work through some of your Vectric problems. So there we go. All right, girls, going to put you in the back. All right, very cool, very cool. It's really nice to have a team, and that's what we were kind of talking about beforehand here. But let's step back a little bit into CNC business, and we'll get to questions in about maybe 20 minutes here, 15 minutes as we start to talk. But so this conversation, folks, is really for those who are interested in making some money in your CNC machine, with your CNC machine. And he started for the same reason I did. Hey, maybe I can make some money with that thing. And a lot of people get that idea, and there's some out there who just want the hobby. But it is a way to make money like anything else is, like any other venture. The trick is learning how to do it. A couple things that I realized, and Andy can start talking to this, but one is, business is something that starts in here. And when we get into business, we are stepping, like me, I got out of the 9-to-5 type of thing and stepping into business. And it requires a shift in the way you think. And when I was coming from the 9-to-5 type of thinking, business wasn't working. I had to start learning from people who knew it. The other was finding the market, the niche that's going to feed your own spirit. Like Andy was saying, he's getting into teaching now about business, and basically starting to love what you do, because business takes work. There's no free ride. So the idea is to find something that you are passionate about, and finding that channel, that angle, that whatever you want to call it, that you just have something lights your fire. So I don't know, Andy, I mean, talk about that. You started to get into making product and just take off. So
yeah, for sure. Garrett and we've talked before. We could talk about this for a long time. Yeah. And there's so much to it, and there's so much to it. I don't say that to scare anybody, but it's so simple at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think Garrett, you hit on it when you first started in talking about this. Is like, okay, what is your goal? That's what I always start with people. Is your goal to build this into a company with employees, or is this something that you just want to do in retirement for a little extra income, and kind of just kind of more on the fun side? Neither is wrong. But I always start with that because it's different for every single person. Mm-hmm. And those, as you well know, let's just say those two opposite extremes, like I want this to make money and support my family, or I just want to have fun, have two different approaches. Right. And so where I see a lot of people get really frustrated is they approach making money with a mindset of just having fun, or just a hobby. Like for example, if someone came to me and they said, "Hey, Andy, I just want this to be a hobby. I just want to maybe sell a couple things here or there just to pay for my bits or something like that," I'd be like, "Well, don't ever go into wholesale or contract work. Like, you just take that out of your mind. Like, you don't go there." And so that's why I'd say it's really important and we can speak more about those approaches and what they're, at its essence. But I often ask too, is there a middle ground? Can I have fun and make money? And my answer is yes, but no.
I'm laughing because I so resonate with that.
Yeah. I do too. I struggle with this. I think any I think anybody does. And so you totally can have fun making money, but that passion is part of it. But let's talk about my story a little bit. Like in 2018, what I was doing, I bought a CNC to make money, and I had a plan in my head. In 5 years from 2018, I was going to quit my full-time job. I was like, the CNC is going to support me. And so I had contracts with 3 big companies that put in orders on a regular basis. And I did that because I knew I needed that kind of income, that consistent income, right?
Hmm.
But that meant that I wasn't making what I wanted to make. That meant that they had products. Some of them we designed together, which was kind of fun. But some of them were like, "Hey, I need another a small manufacturer that does this or that can do this," and I'm like, "I can do that." And so I share all that because money was the goal. Sanding 100 serving trays is not my idea of fun, but I did it because my goal was to quit my 9 to 5 and for it to support it. So,
You had a why
Yeah.
that was bigger than money. One of the things that you said here that really it took me back, something I became aware of at some point was buying a machine to make money, but the idea of going after money as opposed to going after giving value to somebody, whether it be in a product or teaching them, that chase after money, it's like you can never catch what you're chasing when it comes to money.
Yeah,
Right.
so true.
And that's why the why has to be the thing beyond there. If you want to add value to people, create something that's going to have some kind of meaning for them.
Yeah.
That's where the journey becomes much more worthwhile instead of stressful trying to make that buck.
Yep. I would say, yeah, my advice to anybody that wants to make money is it's a mind shift between making things for yourself that you find valuable and making things that other people find valuable. Now, those can align because what I find valuable, it's possible to find other people that find that valuable as well, but it's not automatic. Just because I like something or I find I'm willing to pay for something doesn't mean, someone else is willing to do it. So you just have to be intentional with that. But if you're passionate about something, I can almost guarantee you that there's a group of people in this world that is passionate about the same thing that you are.
Yep. So this is a point that Andy made. I'm going to expand on this one. There are collectives for almost everything. When I say collectives, there's groups for everything. So I own a Jeep. I've been a Jeep lover for a long time, and there's a huge community of Jeepers, and so I was very passionate with the Jeep, and I would make stuff, and people. I didn't focus heavy on the Jeep stuff, but I did for a little bit, and people were asking me for those products, right? But I knew what spoke to them because it spoke to me, and so that's where he's starting to talk about there.
Yep, absolutely, yeah. And that's I think that's a great place to start. And when you're starting there, you're going to learn, what people like, what people don't like.
Mhm.
And, just being conscious of leaning into what is resonating with people and doing more of that. Man, I struggle with this so much. It's not fun to do the same thing over and over and over again. But if you find a way to deliver value, then you need to keep delivering that value if your goal is to make money, right?
Right.
I think, Garrett, you're probably any entrepreneur knows this very well. Shiny object syndrome is a real thing. And what I mean by that is entrepreneurs they like to conquer things and figure things out. But once they do, then it's on to the next thing. But you almost forget that what you're supposed to focus on. or what what like your business and what value you're providing, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this. And it's a very real thing. So
Yeah, let's talk about some of the things that we'll go on for a couple more minutes. We got 10 questions in the queue, but
awesome.
starting out, when people start out in business, they get a machine with the idea, okay, I can make some money off of this, and it's a very valid thing to think that, because people, you do it right and you can do really well with it. The thing is, number one, consistency. Number two is learning how to fail and realizing that failure is just teaching you what's not working.
Yep.
All right. And then number three is going to the people who've already failed and getting their guidance. Right.
Yeah.
And starting off with one thing, one of the things you said, as I've seen it time and time again, some people just get in there and they just make a whole bunch of different things. I was guilty of it. And without the idea that we're going into one product and get really damn good at it and then start to expand out.
Yeah. And I've talked to, I've been fortunate to talk to so many CNC entrepreneurs, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And one thing that I see consistently is, just like you and I talked pre-show, different things, is just that overwhelming feeling, right? It's overwhelming when you look at, okay, I spent thousands of dollars on a CNC machine and software and in everything I needed. Now I need to learn how to use it. Software is usually the biggest pain point. And then, okay, once I get over that, we all know how big, how that learning curve is. So now I'm confident, but now what in the heck do I like? What do I make? What do people want? And so the number one question I get is, what do I make to sell? It's the number one question I get.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming thing. And if you don't know, and this is why I am able to do what I do, if you don't have a plan or have someone that says, hey, we need to focus on high leverage activities, and then these are the high leverage activities that are what is a high leverage activity for the individual to actually move that needle, so you're not spinning your wheels. Back in 2017, like, no one was talking about this on the internet.
Right.
It didn't exist. You, Garrett, me, the other people that are talking about CNC and CNC business, like, so now people have that luxury of being like, okay, here are some people that have done it. Okay, this is like they're saying, don't waste your time on this. Listening to those people can really get you through that overwhelming period, to get you to see results. Once you start seeing those results, you really get momentum.
Yep. And the other thing that is that sense of overwhelm is when you get your machine and suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world. What do I make? And you realize it's a step at a time. There are a couple things. First of all, next week, I want, if you're interested in CNC business, definitely be here to listen to Ellen's story and Kate's story, right? Ellen is a very interesting business. It's Madra, who is here now. She makes parts for exotic, for vintage jukeboxes, and happened to just fall into that. It fell awesome into her lap. But okay, let's start handling some of these questions and start working into the real things that people are concerned about. So I'm going to start with Tim. We'll just bring Tim up. So he said, I tried making a marble maze with a 10 by 10 by 1 inch board. This is something I think I did. He was using a 1/4 inch ball nose bit, 1/4 inch deep, cutting on the line. It cut all the grooves into each other, no borders in between. Ideas? Okay, yeah, that's probably a conversation for another day, considering what we got here. But I can probably say you did not select the outside vector. You have to select every vector on that file. So I did a video. I made a little marble maze, and testing a new bit at the same time, new ball nose. Wasn't getting any tear out with the ball nose. So
Awesome.
yeah. Anyway, so make sure you select all the vectors. All right, we got Patrick. So what are your thoughts on custom components if you are not interested in weekend festival or Etsy gig?
What do you think about custom components? Like just custom machining custom parts? Think that's what they mean?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. So I'm going to kind of veer back. What it made me think of Ellen again, who makes custom parts for vintage jukeboxes, and so for her, I know it's a pretty intensive thing where she has to go and design, reverse engineer these components, and then cut them. And she, like, as far as I know, just a few components of each thing. So it is a time-consuming thing. If you're going to do custom work, I would suggest that you stay within some kind of niche. Matter of fact, you should be in some kind of niche and not try to go all over the place, because basically the way it works is if you're all over the place, you're confused and you're sending a confusing message to your customer. And when a confused customer doesn't buy. So you can do custom components, but stay within a niche of whatever you're doing. The idea is getting into habits and patterns and seeing how little systems so you can design quicker.
Yeah. One thing I would add, one thought that came to mind is these custom like components where I've seen people do them is, or where they got the work was through relationships. Right. And that's just like identifying something that you know about, finding the person, the biggest person in that niche, and figuring out how you can solve their problems or offer them value. Like that's a 3-step process that you could run with.
Yeah. And that's another good point, right? Many people start off with the CNC business idea. We'll throw something on Etsy, which you've got to learn how to work with Etsy. And then you've got to give it time to let you rank up there. That can take some time, but you got to work the system right in order to make it work. But the better thing that Andy just mentioned is relationships. Those that you know, the people in the circles that you hang in, where you're passionate about and they're passionate as well.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Custom components is one, but just remember there's going to be more intensive design work that you're going to have to deal with on that. And that's going to, if it's custom, there's higher value there, right? And so you can charge more on that stuff. We'll talk about how to charge later on as well. Let's see what David once said. How do you move from hobby learning environment setup to garage shop for starter business?
Ooh,
I like this question.
So I'm sitting in a new shop right now, but I built a shop. It took me 6 years. I worked out of my walkout basement and my garage. My wife finally said, I need to have this space. We have 2 kids now. Go build something in the backyard. So that's what I did. But anyways, what I said, the reason I preface this is I made hundreds of thousands of dollars with my Shapeoko 3 XXL. And that is not a production machine. It is belt driven. Biggest problem with that machine was the belt Z axis kept slipping. It was horrendous. They did do an upgrade with that. But anyways, I say all this because I think it's back what Garrett was talking about. I think up here, starting to think differently and think how I can offer value. How can I solve someone's problem? I always give we need to think, like just reverse engineer how we buy products. Like we just don't throw money out for no reason. I mean, maybe some people do, but anyways, there's usually value there, right? So what value can I offer that someone's willing to give me their hard-earned money? Mm-hmm. And because really that's what's happening is someone is like, wow, I need that. You created that for me, whether it's Jeep, whether it's whatever. I need to have that. So here's money. And so starting to learn that and not fall into the trap of just making things and throwing them at the wall, but making things intentionally and getting them in front of those people intentionally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to stack on that. We've talked, as we said it several times, about adding value. And I want to help you understand what we are talking about when we're saying adding value. So there's multiple ways to add value, right? There's a service that can provide yard work or whatever, right? They add value to your lawn, and that's adding value to you. You're making your lawn look better. Adding value can be teaching you something. In this case, adding value is making a product that someone finds appealing enough, emotionally appealing enough, that they're willing to give you money for it. And the thing is, it has to have more value to that person than the dollars that they're giving to you. Right. And that's the beauty of CNC, where you can work into personalization, and that stacks a ton of value when you're doing something that's meaningful for other people. That's emotional value, and that's what we're talking about here.
Yep.
In this particular question here, how do you move from a hobby learning environment to a garage shop type of starter business? Don't think about so much about building the shop up to start your business. Think about products, learn how to make them, and let your business grow with the business that's starting to develop. Right? It's kind of like when we're wanting to build up our shop. To do that, in many ways, we're putting a cart before the horse.
Yes.
Which is something I do all the time. But when you're just starting out, you can put a ton of money into something and it not go anywhere because you're not in the right frame of mind and not going after a particular market just yet.
Yeah, so something I think this will really help. This is in the YouTube world, but my business coach, who has consulted for major Fortune 500 corporations in the YouTube space. So the difference. So the quick story is like, for example, Budweiser came to him and was like, "We have this $1 million studio with all these cameras and the perfect lighting and all these things, and we can't get any traction on YouTube, but someone with a webcam in their basement filming ridiculous videos are getting millions of views.
Yeah.
How is that possible?"
With a cell phone.
With a cell phone. And so this is a great lesson. It was a great reminder for me, is like, Budweiser was missing the point. Like, you can't buy that emotional connection. You can't buy value, buy your way to providing value. Like, cameras don't matter. They do eventually. There's a time for that, right? But like, it didn't matter. It was on a webcam. That teenager filming on his phone or whatever, what his message, what he was saying, was resonating with a group of people. He was providing them value, and that's what it comes down to. Yeah,
it's very interesting that we're kind of leaning into this value thing quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But that just kind of lets you know. So coming from an entrepreneur's perspective, and so first of all, that you're here and you're interested in business put you in the entrepreneur space. And as entrepreneurs, we are perpetual learners. We know that we don't know stuff, and we have to go find the people that can teach us. Right. And that's actually something that you've actually built. We'll talk about that in a little bit, a course that you put together for that. So we'll talk about that. I do want to say, just so we're 40 minutes in, at the top of the hour, we're going to stop taking questions. So you want to get your questions in, because we got 17 in the queue. I also want to let you know that a reminder for the ladies out there, it is going Liberty and Julianne, Kate Tucker from Women Who CNC, and Ellen are going to be stealing the show, since I will be on business trip. I won't be here. So also after that, we're going to have Daniel from PWN, the company that makes the spindle kits for your CNCs. So you got spindle questions, make sure you come on board. Kyle Ely from Learn Your CNC, the Vectric Master, will be coming in, and we are going to have Shaper and Shaper Origin guys. That machine is, I can't wait to have them. And yeah, so next week, ladies week. And okay, so let's get into Dennis. Dennis, He's building his own CNC 4x4 made of aluminum extrusion. Sounds like an Avid. What CNC do you have?
I have an Avid. Yep.
Okay. He's going to use a C-beam for his Z-axis and was looking for a plate already drilled holes on a HR15 bearings. Okay. Any ideas?
I don't.
So technical, mechanical questions.
Yep.
What you can do, if you know the dimensions, work up a drawing and find another CNC person out there that can actually drill that plate, right? You don't necessarily want to, if it's steel, you don't want to kind of do that on a CNC router. They just spin too fast. But
something that comes to piggyback off what you said, Garrett. I don't know if anybody's, this isn't advertised or anything, but Sen Cut Sen. Anybody ever heard of them? Basically, they do exactly what you were talking about, Garrett. Is you can send them a drawing, and they'll machine your part and ship it to you.
There you go. Xometry does the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Yep.
Yeah. So you can hire services out there that they will do it. I did get something from Xometry once. It took quite a while for them to get that done. Probably 2 months. It was very simple. Oh, wow. It was a tramming bar. We're working on a tramming bar design. All right. So we got what is that? Watcher 696. I would like to have a good handle on projects so I can have a hobby that will develop into a side hustle going into retirement. I can either get a $500 machine or a $5,000 machine. Where should I start? It's a good question. By the way, yeah, before we answer that, it's very common for retirees to want to do something like this. And the reason, me being one myself, is when we get out of the workforce, we lose our sense of purpose. We're identified to our work. And then it's like, kind of like, now what? And there's a certain loneliness, and we need a new collective to work with. And, that's why the CNC community comes.
You need a new why. Everybody needs a why. Yeah.
Anyway, so what's your thoughts on this question? I like the question.
Yeah, it's great. So my recommendation, again, this is from my experience, is to split the middle of that, and you'll be happy. I think you can spend less. Garrett, I don't know where you're at on this, but a $500 machine, the limiting factor there could be software. You're going to have to buy Vectric or something like that. And then the CAM side of things, software can kind of be a weird thing at those lower price points. So I always recommend to spend, in your situation, the side hustle, if you spend $2,500, $3,000 all in, you're going to be happy in that side hustle.
Right. Yeah. And that's going to get you a good solid machine to start. Interestingly, I have almost done with a buyer's guide, a CNC buyer's guide that covers all this stuff. Right. And so basically what I talk about in that is, first of all, think about what you think you want to make and try to look into the future. Because one of the things I ran into when I first got my first machine, it was a 2x2 foot cutting area. It quickly became too small for the things that I wanted to make. I wanted more room. So you want to really think about what you want to make, give size considerations, not just to want to buy that machine, but to give it, especially if you're very serious about going into this. The next one is there's 5 main points that I cover, but then you get the drive systems. You want to make sure you understand. Rigidity is one.
That's a big one.
Rigidity is huge, because if you don't have a rigid machine, that's going to make it much more challenging for you with the cutting. Customer service, drive systems, and I can't remember the other thing. But that buyer's guide will be coming out, and it's got quite a few other things in it. Talks about software as well, the type of software that runs it. At the end of the day, my perspective is just make sure you're buying quality first. Not every CNC router is built the same, and not every company that puts them out is the same either.
Yep.
So you really got to check both of those and check yourself.
Yep.
Right.
And I think I agree with all that. Yeah. You can do a lot, and it's amazing. This is one of the things that I get really passionate about is the CNC side of things, or on the CNC side of things, is what you can do for. I know $2,500 is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but the potential, what you can do in your garage with a $2,500 investment is. Now it takes work, of course, but it just blows my mind that we have this technology so accessible.
Yeah. Remember, you're buying something that's going to last you for years. And so you want to make sure whatever you're buying, that's not only built quality wise, it's got the support behind it. All right. So, but that buyer's guide, I think we're going to be launching that Friday. So,
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. Got that question already. So get that off the queue. Tim is wanting to know, Andy, what side channels do you recommend for someone starting a CNC business, i.e. craft shows, farmers markets, online, Etsy, eBay, Macari? I've never heard of that. Postmark, don't know what that is. What would you select as a good channel to start with? Well, he's also, the shows and what have you. What is a good avenue?
So, I'm going to limit myself to just one. All of them have potential. I'm not sure. I've never tried eBay, Macari, or Poshmark, but all of them, all the common ones have potential, but they all take an approach, right? There's best practices for every single one of them. But my personal favorite, when I recommend, is to go to a local craft fair, craft market. Not like a farmer's market or anything. Researching your area. Doesn't have to be a huge one, but make sure it's not. Oh, this is one of my pet peeves. I just hit a nerve, but make sure it's not the first year that the event has happened, because there are so many low quality events out there where they don't have, they don't market the event. The organizers run them horribly, and it's just a bad experience. I've seen so many people get burnt by attending these events. But the reason I say craft fairs is because it puts you in direct contact with your customer. You are face to face. You can get your products in their hand. You can see how they react. A lot of our product ideas have come from customer input. So they're like, wow, this is really cool. Have you ever thought about doing this? And you need to be all ears when your potential customer is saying, hey, have you thought of this? Not every idea you need to run with, but if you start hearing themes, have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought of this? Like they're coming to you with ideas, right? So if you start hearing the same thing, maybe it's something that you need to go to. So getting that direct feedback. The other thing is it forces you to talk to people. I know this may be daunting to a lot of people, but if I guarantee you, just do one event, you will learn so much about yourself, so much about your product. Even if you don't make any money, it is worth doing it. So that's the one I recommend, and why.
Yep. Yeah, I love that recommendation. It's because at the end of the day, you are dealing with people, and your market is going to teach you what they want, and they're going to teach you what they don't want. And so, yeah, if you're making something, you're not making sales, there's two things that's going wrong. Either you're not going after the market in the right place, you're not hanging out where they're hanging out, or you're doing something that nobody's interested in. I coached someone for like 3 years ago, and they wanted to make this really weird thing, and they were just stuck on it. And it was like, I wouldn't want it. I try to convince them, but don't love what you think the market is going to want. Put it that way.
It's a brutal lesson to learn. But there's no way around it. Like, you can make things about that you're passionate about, but if people don't buy it, you can't get offended.
It's not. You can. It's just a reflection of what you don't know.
Yeah, it's not you. It's yeah.
But all these different platforms, like Andy said, they all have their own nuances and angles. You're going to craft shows and you're selling at craft shows. You are investing your time. Your time is dedicated to waiting for someone to come to you. Online has the benefit of being there 24 hours a day, and you don't have to be there all the time. However, you are in a different kind of environment where there is, like if you're on Etsy, you are competing with everybody. And when people search your stuff, right, everybody else is coming up there. So you've got to pay attention to things like pictures, the text that you have, the title text. You have to start being you have to recognize SEO. Learn how the platforms work, right?
Yep.
I've learned from people that not all craft shows are alike, like you said.
Yeah.
Ideally, go to a higher end craft show where people are willing and want to spend more money.
Yep. Yeah. One other thing that I thought of with craft shows, this is really, I have to share this because it's impacted my business, probably my product side of my business more than anything, is meeting other vendors there, meeting other makers, meeting, I tell the story of last year. I was set up at a Christmas market, and we've done the same Christmas market now for 4 years, and it's in a high end part of Louisville. And I was set up this year. It's completely random, but I was set up next to a potter who made beautiful mugs and bowls and all that stuff. But struck up a conversation with her. Come to find out, she's an IRS agent, and we talked business taxes for like 2 days. But it was great. Like it was fantastic. And so but I've met so many people that have been so kind. Some people are jerks. But that's anywhere. But I met so many nice people that says, hey, you need to go to this event, or hey, have you ever heard of this event? Your products would do really well at this event. And so we sign up for those events. So meeting other vendors, especially there's some vendors out there that have been doing this for like 20 years, and learning from them, so powerful, so powerful.
Yeah. So how did you find how did you narrow into the products that you end up selling?
Well, our main product is our lanterns. I've talked about them on YouTube, but they're LED lit lanterns, and I developed that product. It started as a Christmas gift box instead of wrapping paper. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I was intrigued that you could picture a laser cut finger jointed box, and you could laser engrave what almost looks like the pattern of wrapping paper. And so my thought was, again, this is a wild idea, but my thought is okay, people spend a lot of money on wrapping paper. This is a box that they could use every year. And that evolved into a laser cut LED lantern. And we've sold a lot of these lanterns and shipped them all over the United States. And that's how we discovered that product. Now, we are I don't have this for certain, but we are over 50 iterations in on that one product. Like just tweaking things from the very concept to adding and just getting inspiration from other places, seeing stuff in stores, but coming up with something unique, and it resonated. We started with a fall leaf lantern. And so it just had the leaf cutouts and that's still our best seller to this day. And then we started adding other ones like snowflakes and just built out from there. Now I think we have 15 designs. And yeah, so it just, just evolves.
All right. Okay. Let's get to the next one. Jerry, good old brother Jerry, is a pretty regular on this channel. Let's see. Started doing great on Etsy last year. Made $90,000. Yeah,
that's great.
Yay, that deserves a happy dance.
Yeah, good job.
But I want to say even the first sale is a happy dance, right?
Yes.
Because that first sale means that you're doing something right. And if you can sell one, you can sell 100. All right. Anyway, something happened, and it was as if the bottom dropped out. And so far this year, you only made 20 grand. Don't know how to get sales back up. So at all these online platforms, they are changing algorithms all the time. right? And so you are probably a victim of an algorithm change. And so what you can try to research that, but they don't always tell you what they change. So that means just go back to the starting board with Etsy and start researching, paying attention to Etsy, how it's working as you're searching through Etsy for other stuff and why things are popping up. Right, that's one way you can do it. There's people on YouTube who are have seen the same thing and they troubleshot it and gave some ideas on YouTube. So
Yeah,
you can go look on Etsy's forum and see if they said something about a change.
that's a great idea too. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Couple other I had those thoughts. A couple other thoughts is, were you selling a product that was trendy, and maybe that trend wore off?
Mhm.
So demand went down, or were you selling something? Were you the first to something, and then there was a bunch of other ones?
Right, knockoffs.
So there's a couple different scenarios there, but I would go back to the basics, like Garrett said. I would go back to the basics and think about, like, who was buying my product, what did they say, what did they like about it, and how do I reach? I would seriously consider, how do I reach them other than Etsy?
Mhm.
And just thinking about that, what's a popular thing to do on Etsy is to use Etsy. If Etsy's listening, don't ban me or anything. But you want to, and Garrett knows about this. On these platforms that have algorithms, you don't own that traffic. You don't own that customer.
Yeah.
Owns the wrong word, but you don't have, like, they own the platform owns the traffic.
Right.
So you have to. The easiest way and the best way is an email list. Is the most efficient way to contact your prior customers. So if there's a way to move them to collect somehow, offer them a discount or something to sign up for your email list, then you actually have a contact with them. So yeah.
Yep. In business, the mentors tell me, my mentor, he says, you're not getting a customer to make a sale. You're making a sale to get a customer. The idea is lifetime value, right? So if by doing what Andy said, you can stay in contact with that person, and then as other things come up, or you know how to get hold of them, you own that contact as opposed to Etsy owning the contact. This is all stuff that in business, there's so much stuff, but of course it comes down to just starting, right?
Yes.
Don't overwhelm yourself. But like you Andy have put together a course, right?
Yes.
What is that called? That really deals with this stuff, starting at the very bottom and learning how to work up in a systematic way.
Yeah. So I created the CNC Side Hustle. You can go to the CNCSideHustle.com and check it out.
And we'll put a link in the comments.
Awesome. Appreciate it. I think, this isn't just, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not just an information dump. I started at the very beginning and designed it to take somebody that was like me in 2017 and didn't know anything about CNC, but thought it was a good idea to, or saw the potential in making money. So it starts there, and it's sequential. It's 9 modules. It builds on itself. It has hands-on tutorials where we talk about where I give you a beginner product idea to sell and the steps to actually sell it. So I walk with you step by step on how to actually get your first sale. And then we go into the advanced, product, where it's more like market research and kind of developing a what I call is a blue ocean product, meaning, this is completely organic, and then aligning that with people that'll find it valuable, and then pricing. And so these conversations that we've had, it's a lot of my, just all the nuances and business knowledge that I've gathered over my life, really, because back to my upbringing. And yeah, but I try to, like any of my content, I try to distill it down to a very, easy to understand way where people can really start at the beginning. You don't even have to have a CNC to start this course. It tells you like how to go through that process and what we talked about. That question of what CNC should I buy? It answers that all the way to building a sustainable side hustle. So, but of course, the business concept's in there. You could scale this up as far as you wanted to. And yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's 57 videos. We've had 220-ish students go through it since April. And yeah, the feedback at the beginning has been fantastic. So it's cool to put that all together,
Right.
take someone through the entire process and see them get results. That is so satisfying. There's nothing more satisfying.
And that's like why I pay people. I pay people who have been there. A lot of times, I want to speak to this because you have a course and it's obviously a paid course.
Mhm.
And so as creators, when we come into wanting to do something brand new, like starting a business, and we don't know what we don't know, we can do two things. We can try to figure it out ourselves, basically reinventing a wheel. And that wheel, when we're doing it like that, breaks and 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 breaks. And it's so frustrating. Or you can take advantage of the knowledge that people have put together, like what Annie has done here with the side hustle course, right? So that's why you know how much I pay my mentor every year? Take a guess. To teach me business.
A lot.
More than a lot. So I pay $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money from many people's perspective,
Yep.
but the lessons that I learned from someone who earns 9 figures is invaluable.
Yeah.
Right. But
And
we
to
all
give-
are. What's that?
And on that, like again, you don't, Garrett and I have been in, we're further, don't feel like you need to run out and do what I'm trying to say. Don't feel like you need to run out and do this right now.
No.
But yeah, I pay my business coach $2,000 a month.
There you go.
That's a lot of money.
We're buying skill and we're buying speed. Right?
But it is, I think, Garrett, you would agree, it's has been the most impactful money I have spent in my business.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know if I should say how much money that skill has enabled me to generate and bring on amazing people like Liberty and Julianne and pay them a salary. Richard, who is the tech guy, gets a salary. There's several other people that we have that. So anyway, so what? Obviously, people. For those who are wanting to get into this, one of their questions would be, "What's the cost?"
Oh, sorry. I was looking at a question here. You're good. So the normal price of the course is $897. But the everybody has an opportunity to get it at the $497 price point. So if you go to the landing page, the first price that you'll see is $497. And that we call it our special launch price. And so that's what it's at right now. And then I think you have a week to take advantage of that price. And then we have some dynamic pricing going on. So if you don't decide to do it, it goes up to that $897 price point. But then of course we're going to have special launches, along the way. But yeah, I think we were talking about this, like, $497. And I sat down with 15 people that actually went through the course one-on-one like this and talked to them. And I asked them, what was like, how'd they feel about the price and stuff. And they said, yeah, it's a lot of money, but what you get inside and what you're providing, the value that you're providing, like it's an absolute steal. It's a bargain, just because they see that there's a whole lifetime of business knowledge in concepts. $500 is nothing if you
Right.
were serious about doing this. You know,
In the scheme of things, that mental that investment is an investment in your knowledge, your mentality, and it's amazing. We don't always see what it can do for us, but it's the results that start to happen as a result of it. But what about time? I mean, so one of the things that people might be worried about, well, how do I spend the time on this, especially if they're already working a full-time job and they have to do this? What's
yeah, that's a legitimate legitimate concern. I think there's no way. So Garrett, I told you this in our meeting earlier in the week, when we were just chatting. This is my third iteration of this product, and one of my my main priority is I just didn't want it to be a knowledge dump where it's just like bulky, right? Like if you've ever watched any of my YouTube videos, I'm a very efficient person, and I cut out the fluff, and that's what this course is. It's like your time is valuable, and I want that time to be spent like with you creating. So you can go through this course in 2 weeks. We have live coaching calls along with 4 on special launches. Let me rephrase this. But we do have some live group coaching calls and community access, so you can always come back to it. But you can go through this thing in 2 weeks and have your first 2 sales under your belt. And I mean, you can always come back to it to refresh. So yes, time is of the essence, and I want to see people get wins as fast as possible. And I built it that way.
Yeah, and when we invest in ourselves like that, and you finally make that first sale, it's like, son of a bitch, that really does work.
Yep.
Right? The time investment, it's like anything, like CNC. We have to learn, we have to practice, we have to, in this case, get the business mindset into us, and it doesn't happen like that. It
doesn't.
Takes a little time. No.
And so it's that fine balance, right? It's that fine balance of efficiency versus, more content, more knowledge. So yeah, you may have to go through a couple times to. I know it's taken me a long time to learn some of these concepts, more than 2 weeks, more than a month, like 7 years. So
All right. So Liberty or Julianne will put a link to that in the conversation feed here. Take a look at it. If you're serious about business, it's always good to invest in yourself. It's uncomfortable. It's one of those things where we have to break our comfort zones, right? But if we're not willing to break a comfort zone, we're not going to get anywhere. So I do want to just take a minute to say we are past the top of the hour, so we're not going to take any more questions. We got 23 of them in the queue, but I do want to bring the girls back on board briefly, so you know who's in the background. And so Liberty, there she is. Okay, there's Liberty and Julianne. They're back there chewing the fat with you guys, chewing the CNC fat, and making sure everybody's there's no ugly comments going on, and making sure the questions get started, and throwing the links in the comments so that you can go check things out. Since I asked them to do something, I have to take a drink like everybody else does.
I was gonna say, everybody was getting pretty thirsty there for a while, Garrett. I mean,
all right, so these are the 2 girls that are running the show and the behind the scenes IDC Woodcraft. So all right, thanks girls. And take a minute to give a thumbs up if you feel like you're getting something out of this. I work to bring on other special guests. We have Kyle Ely coming in a few weeks. We have Shaper Origin, that handheld CNC router, that really, really cool thing. Daniel from PWN will be coming in. So I'm live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And all right, let's get a question in here. When should you consider going the LLC route?
This is how I deal with this question. I'm not a lawyer. But I think, okay, I'm gonna go back to my. Remember, I told you last year I was set up next to my IRS agent friend.
Yeah.
And we had at a craft fair, and we had a conversation, and I asked her this question. So she works for the IRS, and I had to pull that out of her. By the way, she didn't just just say, "Hey, I work for the IRS." First, she told me she was an accountant. I was like, something's not adding up here. But so she sold pottery, and she had sold over $10,000 in pottery last year. And I asked her, I said, do you have an LLC set up? Any formal business? And she said, no. She said, I just, I just run it under my Schedule C on my taxes and just claim it as income. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay. And she's like, what I'm doing, I'm not to that point yet. So that may really put in perspective. Again, not saying this is the law or what you should do, but I really think that an LLC or any kind of business entity is a down the road thing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100% agreed. Get business first. Don't make products that you can be sued over, like kids' toys. Right? That's really important. Don't make stuff for kids, because there are laws around that, and you have to be certified for things. But yeah, I agree with Andy 100%. Don't overcomplicate it. Just get the business first.
Yeah, and I think so I have gotten letters from the IRS where maybe I didn't do things in the right order. I don't worry, I pay my taxes, but maybe I missed a step, or when I moved to Kentucky, it was they have a different tax law, a local tax law than they did in Michigan, and so I missed some things. And they didn't throw me in prison. They didn't bury my business. They just sent me a letter and said, hey, you owe us this much. And I wrote them a check. So I say all this to take it seriously, pay your fair share of taxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's nothing to be afraid of, especially when you're just starting out. Tell them, if you ever tell them that, because what I have found is that they're more than generous. Because they want people to, if you're generating income, they get more tax revenue. So they try to facilitate that, especially at the beginning.
Right. Yep. Okay. Question from Judson's Discretionary Metalworks. Formulas for pricing to keep profitable.
So my simple formula for pricing is labor plus or materials plus labor times 1.5. Okay. And you can take those numbers and move them or move however, maybe times by 2 or times, it depends. But after that formula, so you have labor, materials times 1.5, and then you adjust for the market. I am a big fan of market-based pricing and not just formula pricing. It does not take into the account the real world. And the best example I can give is real estate agents. They have a price per square foot on a house. Garrett just bought a house. Mm-hmm. They have a price per square foot, but then they look at comps in the area and they adjust accordingly. So that is that's just an example, but that's my approach. But if your time's taken care of, or what you're going to pay an employee, your material costs are taken care of, and you add that multiplier, which has any other expenses that you haven't caught, plus your profit margin, and then you adjust based on that. That's your floor price. And then you adjust based on the market and market demand.
Yeah. So what he means by based on the market and market demand is, what is the market generally willing to pay for something like that? So if you come up, so let's just say your labor, you're doing $20 an hour, is the labor that you've assigned to it. So you're paying yourself 20 an hour. If you have an employee and you're paying them 20 an hour, then you got to compensate for the taxes you're paying because of that. But and then materials will say $10. So you got a $30 investment in this thing. But you got a market that's willing to pay $50 for the item. Then price it at $50 instead of
Yes,
$40 that you might think would be the markup, that 1.5 markup that you calculated in.
it's okay.
I always encourage people to find the high-end markets.
Yes,
You can sell a cutting board for $80. If you find the right market, you can sell it for $1,000.
Yep.
And if you don't believe that, start believing it, because you really can.
Yeah, and so generally, I see woodworkers and CNC woodworkers and makers in general, they undervalue themselves.
Yes, all the time.
And so if you're in doubt that you're charging too much, you're probably not, first of all. But if you take that cutting board and go to a wealthy part of town and they tell you it's too expensive, then okay, maybe you need to go, maybe back off a little bit. But otherwise, so something, Garrett, I think in business, numbers are made up.
Yes.
And the only thing that matters is the value to cost ratio. That's what, as consumers, we're looking at, is what value do I get out of this? And is that price worth the value that I get out of this?
Exactly. What are the people willing to pay? When I bought my Jeep, I bought it brand new, right? And I'm not the one that will invest thousands of dollars in a Jeep, but you all have seen them where they've mortgaged their house, they've divorced their wife just so they can make their Jeep look better, right? There's such high value in emotional value for that kind of thing. So this is exactly what it's talking about. Find the people that have that kind of passion for it.
Yep.
All right. Oh yeah, I just want to remind you all, if you have a Makita trim router on your CNC router, then the muscle chuck, which is something that we are closing out of, we're got 30% off at IDC Woodcraft. So once they go out of stock, they are going to be gone. It's a quick change tool. So you got your router bit there, you drop it on, and this is attached to your Makita. It's a permanent attach. One quick, if I can get the wrench in there. If I can fit the wrench in there, there we go. One quick snug, and that's tight. And then when you're ready to swap out, all right, you just get the wrench in the hole, and there it goes out. Swap your other router, but super fast router bit change. Anyway, 30% off now. We're getting rid of that stock. So if you want that, if you have Makita, the girls will put a link in the conversation there. By the way, give a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, IDC Woodcraft, because I teach all about CNC routers, beginner stuff, and also Andy's channel, Andy's Bird. If you haven't been on this channel, the girls will put a link for his channel, and go over there and subscribe. The subscribers, it helps us all out, right? Doesn't mean, it helps us out. And this is what we kind of strive for. It's like, how many subscribers can I get now, right? But it's at the end of the day, it's all about adding value. If you like what we do to help you, thumbs up. The subscribes always help, and that's the way we know that we're doing a good job.
Yep.
All right, this is from Wayne. He said, welcome, Andy. He was curious about how you learned about running your CNC. Did you take it on yourself, and did you know that it would be quicker and wiser to learn from a pro?
I took it on myself. And again, I didn't have the pressure. I kind of told my story back at towards the beginning of this this live stream, and I had a day job, and I didn't have it. It's really interesting how life changes, but I had a full-time job. My wife had a full-time job, and we didn't have any kids. So I had time and I had money. And so I could ruin material. I'm not saying that, but I ruined a lot of material and I broke a lot of bits. But yeah, that's how I learned.
Yeah. In some ways, right? It's fun for us to take on that challenge of learning, right? That's why we get into CNC in the first place, right? When we're getting serious about it, we're like, I want to do this for business, right? That's when you're starting to buy speed and you're buying knowledge from people.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, like many of us want to just figure it out, but there's a certain limit at which you're working harder than you need to. Yeah, if you bought a CNC to make some cool stuff, then by all means, go buy Kyle's course that's going to teach you how to work with the Vectric software, right? Because it's not that simple. It doesn't work the way we think, right? There's logic to it. Same with business.
Yeah, I think in life, right? Time and money, those are the things that we're juggling.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so if you find yourself with more money, save yourself some time.
Yeah.
You know, if you find yourself with a time, then save yourself some money.
Yeah. We call it, we're in business, we're buying speed.
Yep.
We're buying speed. Okay. From George to Garrett or Andy, what do you see as easy money projects in a hard economy? I've tried cutting boards, but everyone's brother's doing it, and now now the pricing is hard. Okay, I want to speak to this one first, Andy. Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Okay. The very first thing I'm going to say is get out of the mindset of a hard economy. Get in a mindset that you are going to build your own economy. I never ever listen to the news. I never listen to people that talk about the bad economy around me. I walk away from them because I have an abundant mindset, right? And so I'm so passionate about this. So first of all, cutting boards is swamped, right? This is one of the first problems. It is one of the things that it's oversaturated. You can do cutting boards, but you got to niche. You got to specialize in a certain area. You got to find the high-end people that are willing to pay the $1,200 for a cutting board. So you got to make that big exotic wood cutting board or something like that. This is where market research comes in. You know, what are other people making? And if you want to get in that market, how are you going to make yourself stand above everybody else? Are you taking, when you're putting your product out there, are you creating images and pictures that are high quality and have an emotional feel to them? Go to Etsy and look up cutting boards and look at the picture specifically, and look at the ones that say that are more attractive. There's an emotional appeal behind it. All right, you'll see two types of cutting boards: just pictures of the cutting boards and cutting boards of food all over them. But you won't see any pictures with engagement, people engaging, someone holding a glass of wine, the storyline in the pictures, things like that. All right. So an easy money type of project. All right. So that's my rant and rave.
Yeah.
So I didn't really answer the question at this point, but the words that are typed here do send a message of a thought process that you're in that you want to reconsider.
Yeah, I agree. I do not think I've in all my years of business, I've never thought that, wow, this is a bad economy. Whether it's true or not, like that's it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying the economy is great. And I don't think Garrett was saying that either. But that's not a consideration. Because we can't control those, but what we can control is our value proposition, the value we're offering to our customers. And to be honest with you, I think my mentality is let's say, quote unquote, it is a bad economy. That means I just need to get that much better at conveying my value. And yeah, of course, we don't, Garrett and I don't live in a fantasy world where we don't, but that's not going to stop us. And I think cutting boards, I'm as passionate, if not more passionate, than you, Garrett, about people making cutting boards. I don't mean, again, yes, find a niche. But cutting boards, like, okay, how many more cutting boards can we make? It's a great beginner woodworker project. Make your first cutting board. That's great. I still have the first one I made, but there are so many more things that you can make. And really, it's just cutting boards are such a low barrier to entry. You are literally just gluing pieces of wood together. And you have a CNC machine that is like a spaceship that you can do so much with, and like the sky's the limit. And so I say this, and I know Garrett and I are ranting here, but it's a passion because we see people limiting themselves with this scarcity mindset, right? Like, oh no, there's not enough to go around, and how am I going to carve out my space with making what everything else, or making the same thing everybody else is? Like, don't go a different direction.
This goes back to, this is just a lesson. This is part of the entrepreneur's lesson. You can't, Andy and I both know it, and I've said it, and every other entrepreneur knows it. You cannot succeed without failing, and failure is not a bad thing. So when the cutting boards didn't work, it's simply, okay, what did I learn from this? I learned that cutting boards is not the market that's going to work for me. And so it's okay. Let's step back, reset, and find, what else is out there. If take a minute, and it's sometimes kind of hard to do this, but if you step back and start looking around, like Andy just said, and you say, you walk into stores and you'll see all kinds of stuff if you come in with eyes open. You walk outside, you'll start to see all kinds of stuff with your eyes open. There was someone I a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, Andy, I was talking to. They got into the CNC thing, and I was coaching them a little bit. They found their angle. They were making the nameplates on the back of boats. Right,
that's awesome.
So super niche, right? So it's just, what I like to do is I like to say, okay, universe, show me what I can do. Help me be receptive, right? God, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So I was writing, some notes down. I write a lot. I don't, to flush out, like to get this stuff out of my head. Right. And so I was writing some notes this morning, and, I was thinking, I know I talked about pottery a lot, but I have a couple examples of people that got into pottery, a couple of my friends, and we would go to a couple craft shows together and things like that. So I started thinking, I'm like, okay, how are these potters, like, there's quite a few potters out there, and making pottery. But I was like, how are they adding their creativity? How are they standing out? And I think this is kind of a raw thought, but they take something that is like utilitarian, meaning like it's used every day, right? So a coffee mug, people are passionate about their coffee. A bowl or a plate or something like that, right? Like they can make all these things, and then they add their creative flair to it, whether it's textures or color of clay or color of glaze or anything like that. So they develop their own style. And I think we can do that as CNC woodworkers, where think about something that people have, like there's like an innate value already in it. So like a cutting board, right? But don't do a cutting board. But there are other things that we can make out of wood that that have that same base. Like, okay, here's another question for you, Garrett, real quick. How often do people actually use these cutting boards? You know what I mean?
My cutting board is one of my scrap boards off my CNC. But that's interesting. So so there's a little dialogue going in there about cutting boards and saying it's not a total waste of time to not. Okay. So, and they're right to a degree. What you want to do is make sure that you've got your angle, you've got your special slot for cutting boards, if that's where you want to go. So you got to specialize more, and you got to start to understand a particular market, and that's what you got to go after, that market, right? and forget about the rest of the market.
Yeah, yeah, and so there is a place for, obviously there's a place for cutting boards because it is a massive market. And I'm not saying that there's no sales to be made. I just like playing in my own field, my own arena by myself,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
there's less people. But by all means, if you have a relationship or a niche, like an angle, Texas is a big barbecue state, so there can be, these little micro niches, but putting putting a cutting board on Etsy is just
Yeah, that's kind of a death trap.
yeah.
Yeah. Just remember, there really is no market that's off limits. It's if you're going to go into a market that's got, I am digressing a bit. So if you're going to go into a market that's got a lot of, we'll just say saturation, for lack of a better word here, you've got to specialize. You've got to stand out. You've got go find a realtor and get relationships with realtors where you can get a cutting board and you can carve in that person's name, and then you've got regular business from a realtor, right? Something to that effect.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
Yep.
there's different angles. So it's just expand your thought. All right, Keith, is how do you go about approaching wholesales to make products for them? I can't answer this question because I've never done this.
So the way I did it, it's really interesting. And the biggest one, so I'm in Kentucky. The biggest one, I was making these soap dispenser trays, where this lady on Etsy would buy glass bottles, customize them, and put them. She needed something that would sit pretty on a shelf, right? So she used it as an upsell for her custom glass soap bottles. And this was this is just one of the ways. But so I started messaging people on Etsy. And this kind of goes back to our previous conversation. Like, I saw everybody trying to sell on Etsy, start an Etsy store again in 2020. And I was there too. And I was like, I'm going to do something different. So I went on Etsy and I started researching people that had products that I thought I could make, but they weren't their main product. So, like, enter this lady that I found. And I asked her, I said, hey, this is who I am. I messaged her through Etsy, like as a customer. I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but I messaged her and I said, hey, this is what I do. This is what I can do. I sent her some pictures of the work I had done, and I saved the Etsy response. She was so glad I reached out to her, and her manufacturer couldn't keep up, and that's how I sold tens of thousands of dollars of these soap, like walnut and maple 7-inch soap dispenser trays. I'm in Kentucky. She was in Portland, Oregon, and I shipped them out there to her. And so it really just took that mindset of like, okay, I'm going to go a different route and try it. And now I had to fail a bunch of times to figure that out. Like you were talking about, Garrett. I messaged, I don't even know how many people I messaged that didn't respond or told me no, or, but that's one of the ways that I drummed up some business. So just being proactive, thinking differently, and not being afraid to be, someone to say that's a dumb idea. Like, okay, I'll go to the next one.
Yep. And that's the other thing, persistence.
Yeah.
Persistence and realizing part of failure is no's, getting a lot of no's until you get to the yes. Because they like this, put it in this perspective in sales. The more no's you get is the closer you got to that yes.
Yeah, I think it's Robert Kiyosaki that says that I think that's where I read that initially was, the faster you fail, the faster you'll succeed.
Yes. Yep, for sure. All right. F. Cupo. Let's see. I have a dish with a 3D slitting inside. There's also a zero plane. Can I put a small banner south? Sorry, the text is really small, slightly overlapping. The dish is slightly above the zero plane. Oh, so this is a design question here that he's dealing with. So we're going to bring that question to the girls next week. We'll let them deal with it.
Where's Kyle when you need him?
Yeah, where's Kyle when you need him? Yeah. We're gonna stay into the business area, so I apologize for we're gonna skip this question because we still have quite a few in the queue, and we are getting close to the end here. So, Coop, how do find those magic numbers or percentages of sales price?
I think we touched on this a little bit.
Yeah.
My the 1.5 is just really what you're doing is it's like a 50% markup. But the basis is you need to be you need to be making money beyond your labor and material costs.
Yeah.
You'll never make money if you're only I made this mistake when I was starting out. I would figure out how much or how long it would take me and how much I'd have in material costs. And that's what I would send to people. Well, at that point, and this is something mental, a mental thing I had to overcome at the very beginning. At that point, you're only giving yourself a job. You're just employing yourself because you're just paying yourself an hourly wage. So the business needs money to survive, to grow and thrive. So profit margins, big thing.
Yeah. And if you're not making money, you have a hobby, right? You don't have a business.
Yep.
So there's two ways to make money in business. Number one is through volume and low profit, or you can do volume and high profit, or low volume and high profit, right? So there's three ways to do it, right? The idea is to figure out how to get volume and high profit, right? And so that has to do with your market research, knowing how to target people, knowing who your customer is, knowing what emotionally engages them about your project or your products, and then knowing where they're hanging out at. All right, and putting your stuff in front of them in those places. Question from Steve for you, Andy. Do you find something you permanently like or seems to be selling, or you see it featured frequently online for the purpose of making money? So he's asking this question for the purpose of making money. He wants to make money.
I don't like answering this question because it's not one size fits all. Every market's different, but online, people sell the heck out of those jack-o'-lantern boxes. That's popular right now. But I want to go one step further, and this is like same mindset: cutting boards, jack-o'-lantern boxes, anything that you see that's selling. Or appears to be selling, right? People are making money with. My mind automatically goes to, okay, what's next? I want to be on the what's next. I don't want to be on the current trend.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, why do jack-o'-lantern boxes work so well? It's a unique product. They can put them out year after year. It's just kind of a unique take on carving pumpkins, right? But what else kind of fits that also can gain traction? Because at one time, our lantern boxes weren't a thing. So what can we do next, right? And challenging yourself to iterate on that is where my mind currently goes. I don't like looking. If you're just simply copying somebody, you're always going to be behind.
Right.
If you're just simply doing what other people are doing.
Yeah. Unless you make yourself stand out.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Unless you make yourself stand out, you're adding more value in some way. So this is interesting here when you're talking about the jack-o'-lantern boxes, and they become popular. And if you think about it, on the flip side, the actual carved pumpkins are very much less popular. So why are these jack-o'-lantern boxes popular? Because they save people from having to cut up pumpkins. That's becoming an old thing. It's the jack-o'-lantern boxes are a new thing. So they're not, they're still relatively new. So the market isn't saturated yet on that. All right.
Yeah,
Rich.
there's definitely room there.
Yeah. Rich, when carving a custom design, is there an average price per machining hour, or do you just charge a flat rate? I have a design that I spent several days designing.
Want me to take this one?
Sure.
All right. So definitely charge for your design time. And there's a couple different things. If you're just making one of these, that custom work, if you have to spend several days designing one product, you have to get all of that value back in that one product, because you're not going to make another one. Now, if this is something that you're going to make several of, you can recoup your cost over time. You don't have to get it all in one, because the idea is that you're going to sell multiple. Kind of two different ways. You could get it all in the first one, but then it's going to drive up your price point. But I think, I've heard numbers. Pricing formulas are different for everybody. I kind of stick to that one. I've heard $1 a minute. Some people do. So $60 an hour for machine time. I've heard $100 an hour. I've heard a lot more. So I think what I always recommend on pricing formulas is find one that works for you. There are several of them out there. Find what works for you and stick with it. Having a formula is more important than what formula you're using.
Yeah. Here's another more advice for custom jobs. If they're asking you to commission you for a custom job, you want to get money up front before you do anything.
Yeah.
Because if you do not, when they start hearing the cost, after you start getting into it and you start making it, they'll back out. Right? You want to get that financial commitment right up front, and that's one of the business lessons to learn that we have to get into our minds to getting into business. We can't. You learn very quickly that you can't do business like that, doing custom jobs in good faith. Because I've seen it happen so many times that people do the custom job and then they back out because I don't really want it. It's so weird. And it's unfortunate that it happens. So we are at 20 minutes to go here. And so I just want to take a minute and ask if you feel like you're getting something out of this. You're getting some business guidance here from different perspectives that I usually don't dive into on this Wednesday live, which we do every week. Take a minute to give a thumbs up to the channel and subscribe to the IDC Woodcraft channel. It helps the channel itself, and also Andy's channel, Andy Birds Builds. The girls will put his YouTube channel in the description. Go over there and subscribe to his channel. Help him out. We invest a lot of time to educate you guys. It's a passion of ours, and it's one little way you can say thank you. And also with the business thing, Andy's got the side hustle course, right?
Yep.
That takes you from beginning, right, before you even got a machine, I guess.
Yep.
And then it's meant to be very practical from the way you've explained it. To dive right in and start getting that stuff made, and there's a lot of courses out there that are a lot of fluff, right? This one sounds like it's very just practical based. Let's just do it. So go check it out, girls. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, if anybody knows me, I mean that's just me.
Yeah.
I love to share and talk about what I've learned to help other people, and sometimes I'm actually accused of moving too efficiently. Hey, Andy, can you slow down a little bit? And I completely get that. I'm a high energy individual, and so but yeah, Garrett, the course does exactly that. it takes you from zero to sustainable side hustle and the business mindsets and how I think and how I approach, finding products and it's been great. Like I said before, I've had 220 students go through. It's only been open for 4 months now, and only 2 weeks during those 4 months. So we've had a great response. And of course, I don't care about signups. I care about results. And because I know, like, I want to drive results for people to have a good experience with CNC. And so that's my goal. And that's what the course is designed to do. So,
All right, cool. What machine? This coming from John. What machine are you using right now?
I have 2 CNC routers. I have a Shapeoko Pro, which is their Shapeoko 4, and then I have an Avid 4x4.
Okay. Yep. All right. So that's how he's built his business, and it's all started on the Shapeoko.
Yeah, it all started on the Shapeoko. Of course, I've got lasers as well. This is the Thunder Nova 3500 watt. It's the workhorse. And Garrett, I haven't told anybody this other than my community, but I may have another CNC coming here soon. So
sweet.
So stay tuned. I'm excited about that.
Super cool.
I'll reveal it on my YouTube channel here soon, but I'm super excited. So
all right, cool. All right, we got Vortex 8. He is anyone going to Atlanta, Austin, from Chicago. He's looking to tag along if possible. So he's going to the Vectric thing in October.
Yeah.
So if you're in Chicago, Vortex, just respond in the comments, and then you guys can connect. All right. From Dean, what was the biggest mistakes you made in the early years? Oh, good question.
Great question. Made a lot of them. The biggest one, probably something that I wish I would have done differently, is invest in myself sooner. And we've talked about this. I didn't know what I didn't know, and so, if I think investing in yourself, meaning learning from people that have done it before you or in some form or fashion. It just opens up your eyes to a whole new world and how to do things. And Garrett, I like what you said. I think your mentor told you is you're paying for speed. And so I think back, like when I hired my business coach 2 years ago, if I would have hired them 4 years ago, where would I be?
Yeah. Yeah. Put it this way on my end, right? I've been mentored for 5 years now, and I've, over that course of 5 years, I've generated more than $4 million. So It pays off. All right. So there's a question here from Dan. He said he didn't see the $497 price on the site you referred to.
Cool. I'll check it out. There's some. It might mean that you've already been offered the $497 price point and you turned it down, not knowingly. But we will. Garrett and I are going to talk after this, and we'll get it straightened out, and where everybody will get an opportunity at that $497 price point for sure. So
okay, all right.
So hang tight.
All right. Okay. Trent, he built his own CNC using mostly Avid CNC parts, quality, shielded wiring, etc. I still seem to be getting EM interference. Where do I start to track that down? That kind of issue. So, Trent, I would suggest that you go to the Facebook group CNC Troubleshooters. Okay, that's where all the technical guys are hanging out at. CNC Troubleshooters Facebook group. I'm not a technical guy when it comes to that stuff. And it can be any number of things. I also suggest that since you built your machine, you don't have a manufacturer to go to talk to. So I would talk to find some group that's what they do, and they can definitely help you out on something like that. Cross-link custom crafts and creations. When you have a product when you have product already made, but not sell either at the market or social media, what other products would you recommend trying to get your name or at least a product out there? So I just want to say real quick, but then I'll pass this off to you. Is when you're testing the market with a product, don't produce. Make one or two or three. See if the market wants it in the first place.
Yeah, that's great
So,
advice. I would say, start with things you're passionate about. Get them in front of the people that are passionate about them as well. I think that's why we talk about starting in a niche, is because um, uh, what what. Okay, so for example, if you're a football fan of a certain team, you know what the things are of being a football fan with that certain team. And so you can curate your products, make something that you enjoy, and then get it in front of those same people. You probably know them, whether it's a community or group or a tailgate or something like that. But yeah, we need to think about it in terms of aligning our product with our audience. And that's like just a way of saying, make a product for a specific, for somebody. And so maybe it didn't sell because someone at the market or something, it wasn't your target market, right? So really think about who would want this and try to get it in front of them.
all right. Yeah, I see this a lot too. So don't try to overproduce. That's the one drawback I see generally as craft fairs. We have to make a lot of product.
It is.
And I have in the early days when I was making stuff, I made a lot of stuff, and it's still sitting up there 4 years later. All right.
Yep.
So I got to call out a couple people here who have donated to us for doing this. Trade Skillers Anonymous donated $10. This message is meant for Andy. Best way to market it, make it stand out. I've appreciated your content for quite a while. Keep up the great work. So,
thanks, JR. That's awesome. That means a lot.
Yep. And okay, well, cool. Thank you. So you know who this is?
No, I don't.
Oh, you said Dale. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, thank you. And then from Ben West has donated $50.
Wow.
Yeah, Ben tends to do this quite a bit. He'll throw out $50, or he threw $200 out there once, I think.
Ben's the man.
Ben, yeah. Well, they're all the men. They're all the men and the women.
Yeah.
Ben,
No, for
thank
sure.
you so much, Ben. And yeah, we've sent some bling to Ben because he just keeps doing it. It's like, what else are we gonna give this guy? Anyway, and then we got Paul. Paul gave us a $5 super sticker as well. So thank you, Paul.
Awesome.
The way that these guys did that is on the IDC channel, down just below the video on the YouTube channel is a little $ there where you can donate. And that's the way of saying thank you for spending time. I mean, we got Julianne in the background and Liberty in the background. We're spending 2 hours just hanging there, dialoguing and just being part of it without really being part of it. So they're spending their time doing that stuff. From Kevin, have you had or know anyone who has experience with Galmagan?
I haven't heard of that.
Neither have I. So the answer right now is for us, no.
No, sorry.
All right, Dean. Yeah, how important is it to create a brand for marketing your CNC products?
Brand's important, but when it depends what stage you're in, right? A lot of people, a common mistake, not a mistake, a common thing I see people do early is they spend a lot of time coming up with a logo, a business name. That stuff is somewhat important, but what I've found is those are really low leverage activities when you're trying to get sales, right? Like when you're just starting. I think back what Garrett said earlier, get the sales first.
Yeah.
Like get some momentum, and then I think it's important to build brand, build trust, build loyalty, build familiarity, but it's not like the number one thing.
Yeah. Brand is a different animal, and brand is something that it takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of consistency. It takes a lot of work.
Yep.
Yeah, IDC Woodcraft is a brand now. It's recognized as a CNC router company, quite recognized in the CNC community, right? But there was a lot of work over a long period of time to make that happen. So Andy's dead on. Don't worry about brand right now.
Yep.
You become brand when you have a super good niche. You're starting to get well known in that area. People are starting to come to you. Then you can start building a brand around yourself.
Yep.
All right, Tim, we got 2 more questions here. So for the rest of you who we've not gotten to the questions to, we do apologize. There was a ton of them. Also, again, take a minute to give a thumbs up if you found some of this helpful. If anything just resonated with you, kind of made you go, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. And kind of just turn a light switch on somewhere. Give a thumbs up. And again, as everybody does on YouTube, please take a minute to subscribe to my channel, and the girls will throw Andy's channel in there, and go over there and subscribe to him, please, too. All right, when a maker who just makes cool stuff decides to sell his cool stuff to people who might also sue them, what do makers miss when starting to sell online? Product like liability insurance, as an example. So that's a tricky question. Number one, remember, we are not lawyers. So there's certain things no matter what we say, we have to make a disclaimer like that. Okay. What I will say is, number one, stay away from children's toys. Anything is child related, that they can touch, get their hands on, put in their mouths, throw around and break, stay away from it. All right, because there's laws around that. If it's stuff that people can work with, that when they're working with it and they can get injured as a result of it failing, then you want to consider insurance. But if you're in that kind of position, then you definitely want to go talk to an attorney or an insurance agent.
Yeah. The other thing is, I echo that. The other thing I see people get in trouble with is copyright.
Mm-hmm.
If you are using trademark emblems or items, it's you don't own that. It is owned by a company. I'm talking about brand. People spend a lot of money developing brands,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they're protected. So I always recommend don't make and sell copyrighted items with logos and things like that. If you want to make them for a friend, you can do that and give them away as a gift. But yeah, stay away from copyrighted items.
Yep. And yeah, stay away from stuff.
Trademark. I get trademark is the right word.
Trademark. Yeah. Trademark. Yeah. IDC Woodcraft is trademarked, right? So, and I've spent a lot of time building that brand. You better believe I'll protect it.
Yep.
And then we got Kelly as the last question. Do you recommend a specific coach or how to find one?
Me.
Great question.
No, it depends what you want a coach for, right? But in my mind, characteristics of a good coach is they've been there. They have done what you want to do. That's really important. And it's, there's some specialists out there. Like I recommend Kyle all the time. Garrett, I know you recommend Kyle. There's not a better place to learn how to use Vectric. Literally, there's not a better place, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think it's somebody that you jive with as well. Like you have to respect them. They respect you, but also someone that challenges you, someone that just tells you what you want to hear. If you don't, Garrett, I think you'll agree. If you're not overwhelmed after meeting with your coach, it's not a good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not pushing you, if they're not pissing you off.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I say that is because if they're not pushing you off, they're allowing you to stay in your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right. When they're pushing us out of our comfort zone is when we get pissed off at them. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can answer this is, first of all, what do you want to coach in? If you want a business coach, right, to learn business, the way I found mine is I just watched YouTube. I was searching for certain things. So I was searching for someone who could show me the path in life because I had lost my way. And this just the things that this guy was saying resonated with me online, and eventually I went with him. My next coach, I call them mentors, right? Same thing. I realized I needed to up my game, and this other one, I was just looking online, listening to people, and came across one guy, and it was like, he was super ball buster, man. It's like going to push me out of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So,
and isn't it a weird concept? You're paying, you pay somebody like a lot of money to piss you off and make you upset and angry and overwhelmed. It's a weird disconnect, but it's all for that growth, right?
right. Totally. All right. Well, girls, I'm going to bring you all back out. And so these are the girls who have been hanging out in the background. Liberty up top here. She is the shipping manager for IDC Woodcraft and ships all your router bits out to you. So make sure you stop by idcwoodcraft.com to get some router bits. And she's the one that's going to give you the love in the package and throw some M&Ms in there. and there you go. And if you want some one-on-one with your Vectric, then she's the one to do it. On the website, idcwoodcraft.com, go to the Learning Center, and you can schedule it with her, and you will be on board.
Love you.
And you can learn so much more in that 1 hour of one-on-one. Not just solving that problem. There's so much more you learn on that. Yeah, just the way it is. We got Julianne, who is the administrator for IDC Woodcraft, and keeps everything glued together. And of
Had to
course,
put the foot down twice tonight, people. So let me tell you. Stop.
Oh, you did?
Don't mess.
The foot does not need to be put down 3 times. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the zero tolerance policy at IDC Woodcraft, and we got the girls to take care of it. And so anyway, Andy, thank you for jumping on board. Folks, remember to subscribe to his channel. Check out his course, and we'll talk about the price thing that you're not seeing on the website. But Andy, yeah, thank you for taking some time out and sharing your experience. What I've really found cool about this is because it's just real world stuff. It's just, you're not giving a bunch of fluff about it. It's just what it is.
Yeah. And I think, if there's one thing, like my success on YouTube, I think people see that, and that's just me. Like I don't know. It's weird because it's not work. You know that feeling. It's a passion of mine, and people online can see right through it. So I try to be as genuine as possible and straightforward as possible, and I appreciate the conversation tonight. So
yep. All right.
I was gonna say, for meeting you as in person as we're gonna get for now, you seem as real as I thought you would be. If that makes
awesome.
sense.
Oh, that makes me feel good. YouTube, one of my fears is being misunderstood, because it's just I'm not there with them, right? So I appreciate that, Liberty.
All right, folks, we are going to check out. We all have full bladders, and we got to go take care of that.
And, we got cozy too.
Yeah, remember, next week it'll be girls' night, girls CNC night. So,
what color should I have my hair for girls CNC night?
What color?
I don't know.
Put it in the comments.
That's important.
First one in. First comment. Come on, let's get a color.
Oh gosh.
Got to type fast. Come on.
Bring your PJs.
Green.
Green. All right.
Green and purple.
Green is it. That comes from Greg. We had purple, we had red, we got blue lobster.
Blue lobster.
Pink. All right, too fun.
Beautiful.
All right, it'll be a surprise now. All right, folks,
Good
we
night,
will
y'all.
see you. They will see you next week, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.